There's a certain kind of man who doesn't need to shout to be feared. He doesn't explain. He doesn't beg. He doesn't fight for a seat at the table. He simply withdraws. And when he does, the atmosphere shifts. The room grows colder. People get restless. Silence starts to scream louder than any voice ever could. That is not passivity. That is power. Power sharpened by the mind of a man who understood how the world truly works. Machiavelli. To him, withdrawal was never retreat. It was domination through absence. He once wrote, "A prince must know how to disappear without losing his influence." When your absence is intentional, it becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, people don't just see you. They see their own dependency, their entitlement, their fear of losing access to what they thought was guaranteed. They don't fear losing your love. They fear losing control over you. They miss the feeling of being able to summon you with a single message, a single crisis, a single tear. And if you've ever been the man who always shows up, who answers even when it drains him, who explains just to keep the peace, you haven't been loved. You've been used. In Machiavelli's world, predictability isn't virtue. It's a liability. The man who is always available is never respected. And the man who isn't feared is always controlled. You think your kindness is building connection, but unchecked kindness without boundaries becomes an invitation for abuse. You turn into emotional wallpaper, a butler, always serving, never served. And each time you say yes when you should have said nothing, you're trading your dignity for the illusion of being needed. Machiavelli would call this weakness dressed up as virtue. He'd say, "Never let your value be measured by how easy you are to reach, because availability kills influence, and influence is born from scarcity. So the next time you feel the urge to prove your intentions, don't explain. Disappear, not out of revenge, but refinement, to reintroduce yourself as a man who serves no one's comfort, only his own code." Silence now speaks louder than any words ever could. Withdrawal isn't retreat, it's evolution. The moment you stop reacting and start positioning, you become unpredictable, unreachable, untouchable. And that's when the world finally pays attention. Not because you shouted, but because you vanished. And when you vanish on your own terms, they don't just wonder where you went. They question what power you've discovered. In every war, the smartest generals don't waste their arrows on every target. They choose their battles. They conserve their strength. They strike with precision. Your life is no different. Every word you say, every reaction you give, every moment you spend calming someone else's storm costs you energy, and energy is your most precious currency. Most men don't even realize they're being robbed. They wake up tired, not from work, but from exposure. Exposure to people who drain them dry, to situations that chip away at their spirit, to habits that leak energy drop by drop until all that's left is resentment. Machiavelli wouldn't call this burnout. He'd call it strategic failure, because the man who wastes his power on trivial battles will have nothing left when the real war comes. Your energy isn't infinite. It's currency, and who you give it to shows who you truly obey. Carl Jung said, "Every thought, every emotion draws from a limited reservoir." But Machiavelli goes further. He teaches us to weaponize our energy, to use it like gold, rare, guarded, invested wisely, not thrown around like spare change. You might believe it's noble to always show up, to respond to every call, to defend yourself in every argument. But here's the truth. Every reaction is a profile, a map, a blueprint that manipulators use to predict and control you. They don't need to overpower you. They just need you to waste yourself, and you do it willingly, in the name of kindness. But Machiavelli says, stop giving them what they want. Withdraw your energy. Let fools destroy themselves in silence. When you stop feeding their need for validation, your presence becomes rare, and a rare presence is power. They will call you cold, distant, selfish, but Machiavelli will smile, because you are no longer predictable. You are unreadable, and the unreadable man becomes ungovernable. You were never meant to be an open faucet. You were built to guard your fire like a fortress. When your energy is sacred, your presence commands respect. So from now on, ask yourself, is this battle worth my energy? Does this person deserve a piece of my inner world? If not, conserve your fire. Calculate. Rise. Silence is not retreat. It is not surrender. And it is certainly not weakness. Silence is a setup, a trap wrapped in stillness, a weapon of those who refuse to dance to the noise of others. Machiavelli didn't see silence as absence. He saw it as camouflage. He said, "The wise man does not need to lie, he only needs to withhold." In a world full of shouting, the man who says nothing becomes a threat. When you go silent, you disrupt their script. You become unreadable. And what people can't read, they can't control. Those who once praised your kindness and availability begin to squirm. They call you distant, unpredictable, changed. But understand this, they were never praising your character. They were praising your compliance, your availability. They didn't admire you. They admired their control over you. Silence exposes them. Machiavelli believed silence doesn't confuse the strong. It terrifies the manipulative. Because silence breaks the mirror. Those who used you to see their comfort now see only themselves. And most cannot bear what looks back. They loved you as long as you were their echo chamber, their rescuer, their distraction. But when you fall silent, they're forced to face the emptiness they were hiding behind your presence. This is where the mask collapses. Those who smiled to your face will accuse you behind your back. They'll call your silence arrogance, your boundaries cruelty, your growth betrayal. But do not react, because when you don't, you watch their illusion unravel. Carl Jung called this the breakdown of the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted, to be safe. Machiavelli would say, only when the mask falls does the real game begin. Now you are no longer who they want you to be. You are who you choose to be. Not polite, not predictable, but powerful. You no longer explain. You no longer soothe. You no longer chase peace. Let them misinterpret your silence. Let them spiral. Let them dig their own psychological graves trying to decode your stillness. Because the greatest exposure doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from withdrawal. So here is your command. Do not explain. Do not chase. Do not clarify. Let the silence speak. Let it rattle those who built their worth on your obedience. If you feel this truth in your soul, type in the comments, "My silence is the end of their illusion." In a world addicted to noise, silence is rebellion. And in the game of power, silence is dominance. When you stop reacting, you don't just avoid chaos, you control it. You flip the board. You walk away from the rules they tried to bind you with. Suddenly, they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know how to trigger you. They don't even know if you're still in the game. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is not always necessary to strike. Sometimes not moving at all is the most terrifying strike of all. Because when you withhold your response, you create pressure, a vacuum that forces the other side to talk more, to reveal more, to panic more. And in that panic, they give themselves away. Most people have been trained to respond instantly, to every insult, every bait, every provocation, but the moment you react, they've got you. You're no longer sovereign. You're pulled by invisible strings. But when you resist, when you say nothing, they collapse under the weight of their own projection. Manipulators hate silence. They can't use it. They can't control it. They can't predict it. You don't need to shout. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to win arguments. Because silence is the death of their narrative. It unravels their manipulation without you lifting a finger. Carl Jung believed silence connects you to your true self. Machiavelli would take it further. He'd say silence disconnects your enemies from theirs. It turns their aggression inward. It lets them destroy themselves in the void you left behind. This isn't weakness. This is siege warfare. Psychological dominance through stillness. They spend, you conserve. They attack, you observe. They burn out, you sharpen. So here is the rule. He who speaks first exposes first. He who reacts loses the frame. But he who holds his silence owns the moment. Let the silence stretch. Let them feel it. Let their own words echo back with no reply to hide behind. Because in silence, you reveal everything while showing nothing. If this resonates with you, write in the comments. My silence is my strength. You were trained to justify your silence, to apologize for your boundaries, to defend your need for solitude. You were taught to make sure everyone feels comfortable, even if it means betraying your own peace. But Machiavelli would call this a fatal mistake. He wrote, "He who justifies every step gives others the right to question it. And once they feel entitled to question it, they will never stop." Every time you say, "I'm sorry I didn't reply," or "I was just overwhelmed," you reinforce a dangerous illusion that you owe them an explanation for living life on your own terms. But you don't. You never did. Your silence is not an offense. It's a declaration. Your boundaries are not cold. They are the architecture of your self-respect. Your detachment is not arrogance. It's the recalibration of a man who finally sees how much he's given and how little was ever returned. The moment you stop explaining, you reclaim something sacred, authority over your own narrative, because when people grow used to your explanations, they stop respecting your instincts. They start expecting you to justify every move, and when you don't, they panic. But that's their discomfort, not your obligation. You are not here to soothe everyone's fears. You are not here to be universally liked. You are here to be clear. Clear about who you are, clear about what you tolerate, clear about who gets access to you. Machiavelli knew this well. He said, "A ruler must choose between being loved and being respected. Only one ensures order." Too many men choose to be loved and in doing so become slaves to perception, servants of emotion. They give their energy to everyone except themselves. But clarity is a sword. Silence is its sheath. You wield both when you stop defending your peace. So next time someone says you've changed, just smile. Not because they're wrong, but because they finally noticed. You're not here to be accessible. You're not here to be explainable. You're here to evolve. And evolution doesn't come with a permission slip. Let them speculate. Let them misinterpret. Let them create stories to explain what they're no longer allowed to access. Because every man who rises into sovereignty must face the guilt of no longer being available to those who only loved his obedience. If you felt this shift in your soul, if you know this transformation is happening now, carve this into your identity. I owe no explanations for protecting my peace. There is a kind of pain few men talk about. It's not from betrayal, failure, or loss. It's the pain that comes after withdrawal. You stop replying, you stop explaining, you step out of the roles they cast you in, and suddenly, the noise fades. The stillness begins. At first, it feels like freedom. Then doubt creeps in. Then it hits you, the loneliness, the emptiness, the unfamiliar quiet where their expectations used to live. You start to question yourself. Did I go too far? Was I too cold? Did I destroy bridges I still needed? But Machiavelli would meet you there, not with comfort, but with cold clarity. He'd say, power is not born in applause. Power is born in isolation, and isolation is not punishment. It's purification. This is not the pain of losing people. It's the pain of losing the version of you who needed approval, who lived for validation, who stayed in rooms just to feel useful. You are not suffering from solitude. You are detoxing from addiction. Addiction to being needed. Addiction to being expected. Addiction to being liked. Every time you said yes to avoid tension, you said no to yourself. Every time you showed up to prove your goodness, you stepped away from your power. Machiavelli would call this a strategic death, a death that precedes rebirth. Because until the obedient version of you dies, the sovereign one cannot emerge. Let it hurt. Let it burn. Let the echoes of your old self scream in protest. That ache is not weakness, it's detox. And rising in the void is something far more dangerous than anything they've seen before. A man who no longer needs permission. A man who doesn't explain. A man who disappears and returns as his own force of nature. Carl Jung called this individuation the integration of your fragmented self into wholeness. Machiavelli framed it as a transfer of power, not given to you, but taken by you, from those who once fed on your need to be seen. It will be uncomfortable. It will feel unnatural. But so does every great transformation. The lion is not born in a crowd. He is born in solitude. He roars, not for approval, but because he finally remembers his own voice. So don't run from the pain. Stand in it. Let it cut. Let it cleanse. Let it crown you. You didn't lose them. You lost the illusion of them. And in doing so, you found yourself. If you feel this shift rising inside, write in the comments. My solitude is my sanctuary. You have walked through the shadows. You have faced the silence. You have learned the power of withdrawal and the art of presence. Now it's time to rise as your own sovereign, to lead your inner kingdom with clarity, strength, and unwavering calm. Remember, true power isn't granted. It is taken. It is earned. It is held in the stillness between your words. From this moment on, you are no longer controlled by others' expectations or opinions. You command yourself. You own your peace. You live by your rules. If this message speaks to you, if you feel the call to reclaim your power, subscribe now for more deep lessons on psychology, strategy, and mental mastery. Join a community of men who refuse to be weak, passive, or broken ever again. Comment below. I am the master of my silence. This is your path, your power, your life. Walk it with honor.